everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Ohnsman, Forbes senior editor and author of the Current Climate newsletter. Alan, thanks for joining me.
Hi, Brittany. Good to talk to you today.
It is good to talk with you. And Elon Musk has had quite a week between the New York Times piece about him, between leaving the government, between seemingly turning on President Trump and his policy when it comes to the big, beautiful bill. We have a lot to discuss, but I want to start with your latest piece on Tesla and Elon Musk. This is what it's entitled. Pension funds have had it with Tesla's board and Musk. Why? Why are they so mad?
Well, this is an issue that's been going on for some time, but has gotten much worse in recent months. Fundamentally, a company's board of directors, for a public company, they have this fiduciary responsibility to make sure that top management is doing absolutely everything in the best interest of the company. And there is a very strong argument that the board of Tesla has not been doing that for quite some time. There's no indication that there are any controls by the board imposed on Musk's behavior in any sense, his public comments, his activities. And increasingly, he was an absentee CEO for several months through the end of the campaign, and then while he was running DOGE quite actively for several months this year. This is creating great frustration because a couple of things have happened. He's not actually there, or has not been there up until more recently, on a regular basis. So it's questionable how active he was as a manager, as a CEO running the company. But more crucially has been this dramatic and precipitous decline in how the Tesla brand is viewed. Sales stunk in the first quarter. Revenue was way down. In all likelihood, Tesla's vehicle sales, EV sales, will fall even further in the second quarter. So the business, the core business of Tesla, is not going that well. Musk, meanwhile, for some months had become like a co-president of the United States, overseeing DOGE, slashing thousands of federal jobs, pushing to cut programs that most people like support for Veterans Affairs, USAID, things like that. And that created controversy. That led in April and May to mass protests at Tesla stores, Tesla facilities in the US and in Europe. Not a good look. And then a recent poll conducted last month by a firm called GBAO found that in a survey of 2,000 Americans, Musk's reputation had just plummeted, and 55% of people had a very negative view of him. That also spills over to the Tesla brand. And so the Tesla brand now has the lowest favorability rating among all automakers in the EV space. That's a problem that the board should very much be doing something about. If your CEO not only is not on the job every day, but then is also actively damaging the brand with his behavior and his public persona, one would assume that a board of directors would act. The concern here, expressed by people like Randy Weingarten from the American Federation of Teachers, is that is absolutely not the case, that the board has just allowed him to pursue his extracurricular activities and done nothing to prevent it, all the while this brand damage has been accruing to Tesla.
I mean, my question would be, why is the board letting this happen? Because you and I have been talking about this really for months, that Tesla faces a slew of different problems, and they all seemingly stem from Elon Musk. One, until really last week, he, as you said, was almost like a co-president of the United States. He was serving as an advisor, a special government employee, and you could argue he was an absentee CEO. Also, the brand damage he inflicted by being so closely tied to the Trump administration, really shows in the numbers in Tesla, you would think, because sales are down. And he doesn't seem to have a high approval rating amongst the American people. In many polls, his approval is actually lower than President Trump's, who is really seen as a controversial figure. So money talks. Why is the board not doing anything?
Your guess on that is as good as mine. It is very difficult to know. Musk is obviously a dominant personality. He's Tesla's largest individual shareholder. He co-founded the company. He's been involved with it since its commercial launch in 2008, and CEO since that time. He and the brand are synonymous. They're essentially one and the same. And the concern has always been, and this has been in Tesla's SEC filings all the time, where they point out we are highly dependent and reliant on the services of Elon Musk. There's this recognition in an explanatory note that the company relies on this guy, and certainly his image as a remarkable entrepreneur who can do amazing things has really built his reputation, the reputation for the company, and given this real cachet to Tesla stock over the years. What we've seen more recently, however, is more erratic behavior, his willingness to say controversial things, do controversial things, and over time, there is accumulated damage from that. But it seems that the board, which includes old friends and people like his brother, is not really willing to do anything, at least publicly, that we're aware of, to intercede, to say, you really need to make a choice here. Either you can be this outspoken public figure, or you can run this public company that is supposed to be committed to its shareholders and its customers. But it's increasingly untenable for you to try to do both, and maybe it's time for you to decide on that. But he just said also quite recently that he's going to stick around for at least another 5 years. So Musk has said he's not going anywhere.
So let's talk about some of the things that maybe Tesla board members could be happy with, and maybe some things they couldn't be. So last week we saw this farewell in the Oval Office. President Trump sent Elon Musk on his way, saying, hey, he's not really leaving, but he is just, he's going to be back and forth. I think DOGE is his baby. But he called Elon Musk, quote, one of the greatest business leaders and innovators the world has ever produced. So it does seem like Elon Musk is stepping away from the government, at least as intimately as he's been involved in it. He also is publicly bashing President Trump's big, beautiful bill, which is his signature in his second term. So those are things maybe as a board member, I'm like, okay, maybe he's coming back to Tesla in a bigger capacity. But there have been reports on his more chaotic tendencies. One, he tweets whatever comes to his mind, it seems. He's constantly posting on X. There's also a messy report from the New York Times on alleged excessive drug use. Elon Musk has denied, as well as reports on his complicated romantic relationships and family dynamics with his slew of different kids. What do you make of all of this?
It's a lot. Obviously, it's really, I've been a business reporter for a long time. I really can't think of a parallel. We have other very high-profile, famous CEOs, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, people that are very closely associated with the brands that they've created. But it's really difficult to find anyone, I guess, sort of approaching someone like Musk, who's not only synonymous with the company, but also then has this larger-than-life lifestyle. Certainly the accusations of drug use, his multiple children with many women is unusual. And the fact that we know about it, that it's all public information or it's out there, is also quite different. There was really no one else like him or like this at that level. And, one of the, I think it was the state treasurer of Illinois, who was also talking about, again, going back to the Tesla board, he can't think of another public company where this behavior would be tolerated. At any normal company, someone behaving as Musk does, saying the things he says, particularly on X in social media, that might get you fired. The allegations of drug use, certainly a company would investigate that and say, wait, we cannot have our most important public official being accused of using ketamine and Adderall, in excessive quantities. That's a problem. All of that is out there. It is completely unclear whether the board is doing anything. They do not respond. I reached out to Robin Denholm, the chair of Tesla's board. She did not respond, nor has she responded to the pension funds and the state leaders that have also written to Tesla's board seeking more active governance, trying to restrain things. So we are greeted with silence from the board. So perhaps they're talking to him. Perhaps they're saying you need to dial some things back. There's just no evidence to support that. And so he has stepped back from his government duties, and the stock has improved in the last few weeks because of that. There is this expectation, okay, he's going to be more focused on Tesla again. Good. But we shall see what happens, because, as you point out, now he's opened up an interesting new channel in his attack on President Trump's budget bill, squarely stating he's highly opposed to it because it's adding so much to the deficit. So that means perhaps his relationship suddenly gets very rocky with the Trump administration. That could be new problems for Tesla. So it's very complicated and difficult to predict where this is going to go from here.
I want to talk about that letter that you mentioned about from the state treasurers and comptrollers. A handful of them sent a letter to Tesla's chair back in April, and you said that they were raising concerns about risks to their economies if the company falters because of poor board governance. Is that unprecedented? A, and B, does that move the needle at all at Tesla? Because as you said, I mean, they're met with silence, so is it hard to even see if it moves the needle?
Yeah, I mean, is it unprecedented? I believe it is. I mean, we've seen, over the years, pension fund heads, state officials reaching out to certain industries to express concern, perhaps to the oil or tobacco industries or gun manufacturers, things like that. It's a little unusual to have something very specific to one particular company saying, you're going to blow it. That could be jobs in some of these different states where there are manufacturing facilities. It could be sales. It could be, clean energy projects, a whole range of things where Tesla is tied into local economies, saying we are concerned about the direction this company is going because, we're not confident in the CEO, and we're not confident that the board is actually properly managing this individual and setting, legitimate sort of limits on certainly his public behavior. I can't think of another example in the last 20 or 25 years where something similar has happened. Certainly, we've had things like in the financial industry where maybe state comptrollers or treasurers would be very concerned with certain types of financial firms and how they behaved. So it's probably closer to something like that, where they're worried about the implications of either risky practices or practices that they would consider to be dangerous to to their state economies that we're having. So this group of 9 or 10 state financial officials that are reaching out to Tesla saying, we want the board to be more assertive, to take a stronger position, and to really set some guidelines for the CEO. And if that's not going to happen, certainly legal action is a possibility, where you could have lawsuits being filed specifically against the board for failure to carry out its governance responsibilities. And Randy Weingarten from the Federation of Teachers, she said that's absolutely on the table, something that they are thinking about.
And she didn't mince words, according to your piece. Shareholders want him out. You report that there's a new survey out that show most people don't want him running Tesla. I'm curious, let's say he is out, but let's say he leaves Tesla. He's so linked to the brand, as you and I have talked about. Does that right the ship for Tesla? Is that enough?
Well, actually, interestingly, the survey cited in the story pointed out that 51% of the people surveyed would have a far more favorable view of Tesla if he were removed or left. And that's really something, because this is the guy credited with building this company up over the years who are saying, we've had enough, he should go. If he were replaced or left, it would be highly impactful, and it's difficult to know how that would play out in the market. You would certainly have the Musk faithful, because he has lots of fans. We hear from them all the time who don't like all the reporting that we do. They would be very unhappy if he were forced out or left, and they would feel it's over, Tesla's over. Others say, no, this is a great brand with great products, and all it needs is more focused leadership and perhaps lower profile leadership, where it's about the company, it's about the products, it's about the mission, it's not about the individual anymore. So that's really, I think the expectation is there would be a hit to the stock immediately if Musk were to leave, because so much of Tesla's value is tied up in him. At the same time, I know fund managers, investors who'd be happy because, everyone is always trying to guess what's going to happen next because of him. He's very unpredictable, and he's grown far more so over the years. Tesla is in transition right now. It used to be the clear leader in EVs by far in every measure. It's hard to make that case anymore. BYD now outsells it in pure electric vehicles, and many of its competitors, Hyundai, Kia, even Honda, General Motors, are coming out with really compelling competitive products. So now he's saying, well, we're going to pivot and we're going to do robotaxis and robots and AI. Well, there's a lot of competition in those spaces. In the robotaxi space, Waymo is already pretty well ahead and well established in that space. So it's going up against a company that's owned by Alphabet, that's poured billions and 15 or 16 years of research into this. That's a pretty tall order. Humanoid robots, okay, maybe that'll be a thing. Certainly there are a lot of companies that have been in that space for a while, Boston Dynamics and others that have been developing these things. So as it looks to pivot from being simply a maker of electric vehicles and batteries, and Musk wants to take it into these new areas, it's not the case that when Tesla was starting, there was no EV competition. When Tesla launched in 2008, it had no competitors at all. Now, as he's wanting to pivot into these new businesses, are there other AI companies? Yeah, there are. Are there other robotaxi companies? There sure are. Are there other robotics companies? Yes, there are. So it's very difficult to know, can he, possibly have the same level of impact and success in these other areas where the company's still kind of untested, that would be comparable to what happened with Tesla and electric vehicles. I would say right now the jury's still out, but probably not.
And you and I have talked about before how Tesla was cutting edge, like in 2008 and like about a decade ago, 15 years ago. And now, they're behind the competition when it comes to robo-taxis and other aspects of that industry. And I think the message based on your piece is pretty loud and clear. It's either Elon Musk, get back to work at Tesla, or you know what, you've done enough damage here. We actually don't even want you as the CEO anymore. And I think if I were Elon Musk and I heard that, I'd want to get back and working at Tesla and show up in a bigger capacity as CEO. But he said this during the farewell at the White House, quote, "I expect to remain a friend and an advisor, and certainly if there's anything the president wants me to do, I'm at the president's service." What do you think then is, when you're looking at the past couple of months and his role in the government, what do you think Elon Musk's post-DOGE legacy is going to be? Even though it's not really post yet, it's seeming to be sunsetting a bit.
Well, I think the legacy with regard to the role he's had in the Trump administration will not be positive. There remains a lot of anger directed towards him because of his role in DOGE. He has been a controversial figure for some time, but when he jumped into the political space last year with extremely generous financial support for Donald Trump's campaign, campaigning with him, and then taking a role in the administration, he did something that we almost never see with big companies, where he has suddenly politicized his brand. Obviously, that's problematic because the core buyers over the years of Tesla are people who identify politically. They tend to be more, identify as progressive or Democratic. That's just the reality of who's buying most of the electric cars in the United States. So in that sense, what he did was extraordinarily risky by so closely aligning himself and by default the company with the Trump administration. I've said it before, say it again, it's the Michael Jordan rule. He used to say, Republicans also buy sneakers. For that reason, with the Air Jordans, it's like, I want to sell to everybody. I don't want to turn off anyone. And that is, as a general rule, that's the way companies think. What he did went so strongly against that basic ground rule, which is like, I want to make everybody happy. I want everyone to like this brand. Clearly, what he has done, the way he has conducted himself, in particular over the past year, has gone 180 degrees against that and has suddenly created a lot of ill will towards him, towards the brand. And so, the legacy is not a positive one, unfortunately. Tesla has been so high profile and such a key company in the electric vehicle space for so long and had so much goodwill. And so he's really taken an enormous risk. And one could say that in and of itself, it was an incredibly poor decision. The board should have said, okay, you know what? You can be part of the Trump administration. You can have this public role, but we will need you to step aside. We need a CEO. We need someone who is focused 24/7 on this company, on making it great, on building it out. It is not possible for you to have this political public role, run Tesla, run SpaceX, run the Boring Company, run X, run Neuralink, run XAI, do all these other things. We need your attention. No one has the ability to multitask like this, and we're sort of seeing the result of that with the sagging public image, declining sales at Tesla. So yeah, I think he's done a fair bit of damage to his legacy as a result of this.
And then I guess my last question to you, you're saying it's an enormous risk. Was it worth it? Because it seems like President Trump and Elon Musk are on the outs. Their relationship has seemingly soured within the past couple of days because President Trump has called his big, beautiful bill one of the most important pieces of modern legislation, and Elon Musk has just really ripped it to shreds. I want to read one post that was really critical of it. He goes, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." What are your thoughts on this turnaround?
This is going to be something. I mean, there had been a lot of folks predicting that the Trump-Musk love affair could not possibly last. You have the world's wealthiest person and the world's most powerful person as the President of the United States, both who have enormous egos, very wealthy, huge fan bases. This has always seemed like a very tentative sort of relationship. So we shall see what unfolds in the next week or two, whether this turns into sort of open hostility between Trump and Musk. The White House, I think, when asked about Musk's comments, has just said the president is aware of Elon's views and said nothing more than that. But we shall see, because this is day 2, I guess, of Elon really going after the budget bill very aggressively, and he's upping his language. At first, some people thought maybe it's just performative. He's just throwing it out there, and it's like, it's not really serious. He doubled or tripled down today, so it seems like, okay, he's really worked up about this. If that is genuine animosity between those two, things are going to get pretty exciting, I think, real soon. And again, that could also be an extra problem for Tesla, because as he's fighting with the president, we've got tariffs on auto parts. We've got new tariffs on steel and aluminum. Tesla needs those things. Trump's tariff policies set aside what's actually in the bill, because what Musk seems to be mad about in the bill is how much spending is in it and how much it's going to add to the deficit. But it's also completely lining out support for clean energy that was created in the Biden administration. No more EV tax credits. Tesla's the biggest beneficiary of those. No more tax credits for all forms of clean energy, for battery manufacturing, for all of these things. Those all go away. So Tesla's going to take a hit because of the specific policy elements within the budget bill. And then separate from that, you have the tariffs, which remain an ongoing, every day, something different happens with regard to tariffs. But Tesla's impacted by that too. So him fighting with the administration right now, it's kind of risky, I guess, as this thing moves forward.
And Elon Musk wasn't a fan of those tariffs either, but there is certainly a lot to look out for between what's happening at Tesla paired with the revolving relationship between Elon Musk and the president. And I'm sure you and I will have plenty to discuss soon. So until our next conversation, Ohnsman, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Brittany. Always fun to talk to you.